but there's not really any good conversation starters there. And then often people chat for weeks, they build up all of these expectations in their head, and then either you get ghosted at some point, so people just stop responding because they found other matches that they had a conversation with, or you meet in real life after 2 weeks of chatting, and then you see that the expectations that you build up in your head are different in real life. So it's a lot of swiping, a lot of chatting, rarely meeting people, and if you meet them, maybe sometimes within 5 seconds you already know that it's not a match. So for Breeze, we wanted to make a dating app that's, I don't know if efficient is the word, because I don't necessarily think that dating should be efficient, but the process from putting yourself out there on a dating app and meeting someone in real life, I think that process should be more efficient and more human.
Hey, welcome back to Women Disrupting Tech, and thank you for tuning in to episode 149. I'm your host, Dirk-Jan Hupkes, and this is the podcast that closes the funding gap in venture capital by amplifying the stories of female founders and their investors. If you've ever used a dating app, you probably recognize this experience. Endless swiping, endless chatting, and if it ever gets to a date, chances of a real match are slim to none. While still in university, Marsha Goei and her team at Breeze decided to change this. They built an app that skips the chat and sends you straight on your first date. In this episode, Marsha is my guest to share what she learned while building something deeply human in a system that rewards the opposite. We learn how building with a team of 7 requires radical vulnerability, how you can test a dating app without writing a single line of code, and how staying close to yourself helps to prevent misalignment and burnout. You'll also hear how Breeze discovered who actually pays for their services. Spoiler, it's not who they expected it to be. So when you're ready for a beautiful conversation about what it takes to build for human connection instead of swipes, here's my conversation with Marsha Goei. Marsha Goei, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good to have you on Women Disrupting Tech. It's an honor to have you. Let's start with some background. You're the head of brand at Breeze Social. How did you get there?
We started Breeze while I was still in university, so as students, and this is 2019 we're talking about. We were all master students, working some extra curricular activities next to our studies, and at one point we came together and said, let's give entrepreneurship a try. And 7 years later, here we are.
Okay, cool. So what made entrepreneurship a viable option for you?
Honestly, for me, it was never something that I dreamt about. I was studying industrial design engineering at the time, and during those studies, you're often prompted you have to start making products and think about problems in the world that you want to solve. And that is very much in line with entrepreneurship, but I didn't really see it as a viable option at the time because I never really had any role models in that regard or saw myself as an entrepreneur. So I was very lucky to have met a couple of friends during my studies who were really eager to see if the founder life was something for them. And they asked me to join. And that's how I ended up there.
Okay. So you were asked by friends. Before you started working for Breeze, you also briefly worked for a VC firm as an analyst. That wasn't like inspiration for you to start founding a startup?
No, I'd say this was actually the other way around. So we decided that we wanted to give entrepreneurship a try. And then we were contacted by this organization through the sort of entrepreneurship organization in Delft, where we were studying at the time. And they were looking for students to sort of join their program that sort of trains you to become a VC analyst. And so we knew nothing about the industry at the time, and we thought this would be a good learning opportunity. So it was actually the other way around. We wanted to do entrepreneurship, and that's why we sort of took an interest in the finance side of things.
Okay. So did it help? Does it help?
Um, Definitely during fundraising, the things we learned there is definitely like what does a pitch deck need to look like? What do VCs look for in founding teams, in products, in market opportunities? So in that sense, it definitely helped us raise.
Mhm.
I don't think it necessarily makes you a better founder or that it's like a very mandatory experience you have to have. Definitely no.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So with Breeze, you're building a dating app. Um, Maybe start by saying what prompted you to build a dating app, because there's quite a few of them
Yeah, it's also
around.
that exactly. It's not as if we grew up wanting to build a dating app. I think this is again something. So when we started as students, people were telling us like, don't think about solutions yet. Definitely think about problems.
Hmm.
And being students, we were thinking about problems that we had in our own lives.
Hmm.
And then, of course, dating was one of the things that came up.
Huh?
We knew many people, and maybe, yeah, the founding team as well. Eager is maybe a big word, but we were looking to get to find more dates to meet people. And there were all these dating apps, but they didn't really help you get to that goal of actually meeting people in real life.
Hmm.
So we thought, yeah, this is something that definitely could use a product that works better for this. And that's when we started researching the problem mostly. And then eventually we started building Breeze.
Yeah. So, couple of things I want to unpack here. One is dating apps as they were then, and I think now as well, are not geared towards actually meeting people. How is Breeze different?
Yes. So before diving into Breeze, I think it's nice to explain for the people who don't know how all of these other dating apps generally work.
Hmm.
Generally, it's a lot of profiles, endless amounts of profiles that you can swipe through. And then within a split second, you can decide if you want to like or dislike someone. And if
Hmm.
you like someone and the other person liked you as well, then there's a match. And then a chat box opens. And it's up to you, the users, to sort of start a conversation and eventually maybe meet in real life.
Hmm.
What you see in practice is that a lot of people start swiping mostly out of boredom, out of a certain wanting to be entertained,
Hmm.
or wanting to get some validation on the market to see how many likes they are getting, stuff like that. And then once the chat opens, many many matches go sort of unanswered, so people don't even start a conversation. And when you do, it's very difficult to sort of make a connection because you haven't met each other, you don't know anything about each other, so you're just start asking how your day was, but there's not really any good conversation starters there. And then often um, people chat for weeks, they build up all of these expectations in their head, and then either you get ghosted at some point, so people just stop responding because they found other matches that they had a conversation with,
Hmm.
or you meet in real life after 2 weeks of chatting, and then you see that the expectations that you build up in your head um, are different in real life.
Uh-huh.
So it's a lot of swiping, a lot of chatting, rarely meeting people. And if you meet them, yeah, maybe sometimes within 5 seconds, you already know that it's not a match. So for Breeze, we wanted to make a dating app that's, I don't know if efficient is the word, because I don't necessarily think that dating should be efficient, but the process from putting yourself out there on a dating app and meeting someone in real life, I think that process should be more efficient and more
Yeah.
human. So how it works at Breeze is that you only get a selected amount of profiles each day. So there's an algorithm picking profiles for you that we send you at 7 p.m. You look at those profiles. If you have a match, then you cannot chat. Instead, you directly fill out the date picker, and we then organize the first date for you at partnered restaurants and bars.
Oh,
So it's you go straight to dating in real life, see if there's a click, and if it's not, then you didn't spend weeks investing in this potential match, but you just know immediately. And it's also a safer way to date this way.
yeah. So talk to me about the safety then, because it's sort of sitting behind the screen and swiping, sort of, I can imagine, feels really safe for people because there's no obligation to do anything. So how do you, I guess my question is, how do you ensure that people have the commitment to also actually go to that date and spend that time with the other person?
Yeah, there's many features that we have in place to make sure that indeed you end up meeting each other in real life and that you feel safe during that process.
Uh-huh.
So I'd say one of the biggest safety features within quotation marks that we have is the fact that we organize the first date for you at partnered venues. So there's bar staff there that is aware that you're on a first date and they can keep an eye out on you. We've heard many stories of people who said that they felt very comfortable because once someone went to the toilet, then the bar staff came up and asked like, "Oh, how are you doing? Do you need some help? Or are you okay?" So that's definitely that's definitely a safety net in real life.
Uh-huh.
Other things that we can do is because we know that the date happened, we can ask you afterwards, how was this person? Did they behave correctly? Were they similar to their profile? And if people say yes, then we can sort of give people a check mark, an extra check mark on their profile that indicates, hey, someone else from the Breeze community met this person and said that they were okay. So these are all things that other dating apps cannot do because they don't own the date itself as well. They just stop at the chatting. Um, and then also in terms of making sure that people get to the date, we have a whole system in place to make sure that if people, for instance, cancel or don't respond to a match, that they get a penalty to ensure that the community and the culture stays intentional. So
Mm-hmm.
you also have the feature that if you have a match and we ask you to fill out the date picker and pay for the date beforehand, um, if you haven't gone through those steps with your current match, then it's not possible for you to answer other profiles. Because what you otherwise see is that people start liking people, they start to sort of
Mm.
collect matches but never follow through on them. So we want you to follow through on your current matches and only then you can sort of look who else is out there.
So actually you re-engineered the process such that A, you go to the date first and don't waste time on endless chatting. And B, you actually have a carrot and stick system in place that makes sure that people A, get rewarded for showing good behavior. So actually going on the date and behaving nicely, and get penalized for, uh, let's say, not behaving nicely, and or ghosting people or canceling.
Exactly. Yeah. And it sometimes
Okay.
feels a little like, do we need all these rules and things in place for people to meet each other? But I think what the other dating apps have shown is that this whole online mating dance,
Hmm?
that's how you can call it, is so new to people and to us as humans with
Hmm?
technology, that sort of all the rules that we have in real life don't apply anymore. Suddenly it's okay to, in the middle of a conversation, ghost someone or to send a picture unsolicited to someone. So um, it sort of was the rules of the jungle applied to all the other dating apps. And I
Yeah.
think it's good to sort of say as a new dating app, like, hey, this is not how we treat each other. We want to treat each other online still as human beings. So there are certain, yeah, expectations in place.
Uh, yeah. Cool. You also, I read somewhere or heard somewhere that you had a very interesting way of validating the whole concept behind it, because that's let's tease it a bit. There was no technology involved there.
Yeah, that's very true. Good research. Um, so we were students at the time and we didn't have any resources and we really didn't know how to build an app. So we read this book, The Lean Startup, which is, well, of course, something like the Bible for a lot of founders. And there we learned that you don't necessarily have to start like developing an app to actually test if this concept would be something that people are interested in. So our most MVP product to test would be paper profiles of our friends. So we asked many of our friends to create a profile. We printed it out with a couple of pictures and some information on them. And we would go around campus asking people if they would want to go on a date without chatting first. And if they said yes, we would show them the paper profiles and ask them, okay, who do you want to go on a date with? We'll arrange it, but you cannot chat beforehand. And that's how we organized our first date on the first day of actually coming up with the concept for Breeze.
How was the response on campus otherwise? Because that sounds like a good start.
People thought it was really weird that we came up to them and asked them about their dating life.
Uh-huh.
Many people thought that we were going to ask them on a date, which I get because it's so random.
Uh-huh.
But I think especially as like young founders and early stage, you just have to get out there and don't be afraid to make a fool out of yourself or to bother people with your questions, trying to understand a problem. But in general, people, once they understood our intentions, that we were mostly doing research or trying to validate something, people were very open to talk about their love lives, talk about their dating lives, and their desires in that regard. And the first responses were, "Whoa, can I really not chat with this person? That's really scary." But in the end, we saw enough potential there and enough people who were open to try it that we started to iterate on the idea further.
Okay. So how did you get from that stage to actually building something?
Actually building something, I mean, I'd argue that this is also building something, but if you're talking about actually building the app, I think it
Uh-huh.
took maybe 7 months or more than half a year to actually start building the app. So we had a
Okay.
lot of months validating with very low code solutions.
Uh-huh.
So once we went past the paper profile test, we started to send digital profiles. So people could make a profile in Google Forms, upload pictures, answer questions, and we would then WhatsApp people PDF profiles through WhatsApp. And through WhatsApp, they would answer us, okay, I like person A and I don't like person B. We would have this huge Excel where we would sort of um, analyze all these likes and dislikes and select new profiles to send to people manually. But once we saw that there was a match, then we would WhatsApp both people again, like, hey, you have a match with this person. When can you make it for the date? Friday, 8:30. Okay, we'll ask the other person. We would ask the other person, and if they also could make it, then we would make a reservation and tell them, okay, 8:30, this cafe, your match is going to be there. Have a good time. This was
Out
all
of cu-
super.
yeah,
Yes.
out of curiosity, how did you make the bars interested in this? Because yes, they get paid, but it's
This was this was a whole second proposition that we had to test as well. So on one
uh,
hand, we were busy validating if daters wanted this, and on the other hand, the whole bar aspect was a safety aspect of the whole proposition. So
uh-huh.
this needed to be validated as well. We went by all the date spots in Delft. Just like walked in and asked if we could organize dates there. Many of these bars said, well, come back once you've organized 50 dates and maybe we're interested. So we got a lot of no's. But there was one place who said, okay, we can do this. And our idea at the time was that the business model would be at the partner side. So our idea was, okay, we're going to give you new clientele. And in exchange, we can sort of ask maybe 5 or 10% of the bill. Um, this was invalidated very quickly because we learned that bar owners, they don't want to have all this hassle of keeping track of all these tabs and stuff like that. So the first partner we had in Delft, they said, okay, we're going to give you €1.50, staggering amount of €1.50 per date. And we were quite happy with that at the time, not because we knew that that would be a scalable solution, because if you only earn 150 per date, then you need to organize
A
a
lot
lot of
of that.
dates to
Yeah,
make some revenue.
it
But
becomes
it
a
was,
volume game.
yes. And at the time, maybe we dared to dream big, but we didn't dare to dream that big yet, I think. So it was mostly validation that there was at least someone willing to pay for something of this. But once we started to scale up, we also, so we were organizing maybe 5 to 10 dates a day. And then after each date, we would ask the users, like, hey, did you enjoy the date? Can we call you about your experience? Stuff like that. And we noticed that people were super, super happy to give us feedback and tell us about their experience because they really enjoyed it. So at some point, we asked them afterwards, like, if this was worth something to you, this is an open payment request and you can just donate anything that you thought it was worth.
Yeah.
And then we saw that people, if they had a nice date, they would donate €5, €10, because they had a good experience. And that's when we realized, oh, the business model is not on the partner side, it's actually on the user side. And then we could really scale this up. So users are currently paying, it depends between €7.50 to €12.50 for a date. And this includes the first drink at the venue.
Mm-hmm.
And on the bar side or on the venue side, there's no exchange of money. We give
Oh,
them
you skipped the 150 per guest.
exactly. Yeah. So that changed and it got a lot easier to scale in that regard as well. For bars, we fill empty tables when they need it. So they can say, like, I want 5 tables filled on Wednesday, but I don't need any tables filled on Friday evening, for instance. So we
Mm.
fill those tables and then they give the first drink in return. And that has been going very well. And it's proven to be a very scalable way to grow on the partner side as well.
Okay, cool. So you studied industrial design engineering. How does that influence how you look at the design of an app in terms of functionality and in terms of well, maybe also UX, UI?
I think the philosophy of the industrial design engineering faculty in Delft, at least, is that it's a very human-centered approach.
Mm-hmm.
So it's form follows function. Sort of the function of the product should be central and
Mm-hmm.
how people are interacting with it. And the form of it sort of flows out of that. And I think that's also really how we designed Breeze. Um, we did so many hours and hours of user testing, user interviewing, really understanding what because dating is such a soft contextual experience. Dating is not something practical like buying groceries or going from A to B. This is a very personal experience. So really understanding this from a user point of view and building and tailoring the product around that. I think that's very much in line with everything I learned in Delft.
Okay. So in that sense, also your education then did help because one could be tempted to think like, hey, you're combining tech with something that is indeed highly contextual.
Yeah, I think because currently I'm head of brand, but I used to be head of product for the first, I'd say, 4 or 5 years of building
Mm.
Breeze. Um, and I think I am one of the only ones in the founding team who did something in line with what she sort of was educated for. Because I think, for instance, our CFO, um, he was the front end developer for the first couple of years of the app, for instance.
Okay.
He was studying electrical engineering, then became the front end developer, and is now doing all the legal and finance part of Breeze.
That's an
So
interesting shift to
definitely. I think it's more than anything a showcase of as founders, you have to be super flexible, eager to learn, fill in gaps that are needed. And I think I was lucky in that regard that the thing that I wanted to do is the thing I could do at Breeze.
yeah. Before we go to your shift from head of brand or from head of product to head of brand, just want to finalize this bit with another question about the app. How do you measure if it's successful, the date? So you do some post, let me call it post date interview.
Yes. So back in the day, we actually did interview them, but now it's a post-date feedback form. So indeed, we ask you, hey, you went on a date yesterday at this location with this person.
Uh,
First of all, what did you think about the match?
uh,
And this is not rate the other person, but it's more what did you think about the match so that we can use that in our algorithm to match you better in the future if there's going to
uh,
be other dates, of course. We asked you if you want to exchange phone numbers
uh,
because people have had no contact with each other. They've only sort of communicated indirectly with each other through the app. So it's also up to us to sort of ask them afterwards, do you want to exchange phone numbers? And if they both want to, we can do that through the app as well. This is also another safety feature because we learned that it's quite uncomfortable sometimes for people on the date itself to have to say that they don't want to exchange phone numbers, because it can get quite confrontational. Yeah, so this is also safety, that you do this afterwards in the comfort of your own home, sort of,
Yeah.
and that you can think
Do
about it
you
for a night.
Yeah, do you actually prompt people not to exchange phone numbers on the first date at all? Just tell them, hey, stay, don't do that yet. We'll
We
ask you
tell
to.
them, we'll tell them that the possibility exists to do it afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Because also I do think that I don't want to sort of direct the entire breeze date, because we already
Yeah.
direct quite a lot. And
Yeah.
I still hope that there is some room for like human magic connection happening in real life, and
Spontaneity.
spontaneity, exactly,
Yeah.
something that would sort of organically happen as well.
Mhm.
So we don't necessarily say you cannot do this, but we do definitely say like this is an option to do afterwards. So feel free to make use of
Yeah.
that.
It's also
Um,
safe because if people then forget for whatever reason to ask, which happened to me once, almost. And
and they're
then,
now your partners too, or no?
sorry?
Was this with your current partner?
No, 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 no,
Oh,
no, no. It was actually in a bar. I just met this girl, and I was just like so head over heels that I forgot to ask her phone number. Fortunately, a friend of mine did ask her phone number,
for
so
you
we.
or for themselves?
No, 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 for me actually.
Okay, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
no, no, it was like really nice of him to do that. So
The
that
perfect
happens as
wingman.
well. But then it's a sort of also a very nice fallback to have. Like, oh yeah, I can also ask and for the phone number, because back then we didn't have the technology. It was still paper writing.
Different times.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a nice story.
yeah,
Yeah, sorry, we got off track,
we
but success rates.
yeah,
So indeed, we asked you for the match, want to exchange phone numbers. What did you think about the location? Because there's also a whole location picking algorithm that we can sort of learn for. And what we see is that around 75% of matches want to exchange phone numbers afterwards.
hmm
So if that means that they are going on a second date, not necessarily, but I think it's quite a good proxy to sort of, yeah, it indicates that people generally have a good time on a first date.
yeah. It wasn't a bad match because otherwise you wouldn't exchange phone numbers.
Exactly. So 75% is, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. I think you also you had your first baby at some point?
Yeah, this is the most fun about working in the dating industry, of course, is the success stories.
Yeah.
So um, we often get cards in the mail, or DMs or emails from happy breeze couples showing us that they went on their anniversary trip, or that they went back to their first breeze date location on their 1 year anniversary, that they bought houses, that they moved in together, and indeed sometimes we get baby photos of breeze babies, and that's
Yeah.
then you really realize that you are making a lot of impact on people's lives, and
Yeah.
that's super cool to see.
Yeah. I can imagine. So let's talk about your story. A couple of things I want to pick up on. One is, and this is one of the reasons you were on my people to be interviewed list for a very long time. Um, I heard you say that you founded Bree Social with 6 guys, and that you actually, because you were the only woman on the team, you actually tried to have other women or female students join, but that it didn't work. How was that
Yes.
journey for you? How was it to be the only woman in a team when you're building a dating app, which is usually sort of not necessarily just a male dominated domain? And the second question is, so how did that go in terms of getting a second female founder on board? Because I don't think it happened ultimately, but how was that for you?
Um, I would say at times a very lonely experience. So as you said, we founded Breeze with 7 co-founders, out of which I'm the only female. And in general, 7 is already a very unusual large
It's a
group
big
of
team.
co-founders. It's a
Yeah.
big team. But as students, we sort of didn't know what was usual, and you're used to sort of bigger groups in which you make projects. So it felt quite natural to us. And indeed, at that time, we wanted to look for other female students to join as well. Um, Many of the friends or acquaintances I had at the time, they all said like, "No, I don't think this is something for me. No, I'd rather do an internship at a company." So there was quite some hesitance there to join,
Uh-huh.
which I could relate to because I also, as I said earlier, didn't see myself as an entrepreneur.
Was that about
So
being an entrepreneur, or was that also about being in a room with 6 guys?
for me personally, I
Mm-hmm.
think it really was about not seeing myself as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but part of not seeing myself as an entrepreneur is definitely because you don't see yourself reflected in the founder stories that you see online.
Uh-huh.
And maybe similarly, like if you go to like one of those student entrepreneurship events, there were always almost only guys there, and it can sometimes feel not as welcoming or um, maybe not as homey as maybe my guy co-founders would feel in the beginning. So there were quite a lot of doubts for me, but also I think because we were so young and because it definitely felt like, oh, this is something we're gonna try for half a year, and after that, I'm just gonna graduate and do a normal, have a normal job.
Go back to normal life.
Exactly, it didn't feel like it was going to be such a big decision for the rest of my life because if I had known at the time what would come out of it, I also definitely think I would have doubted more and maybe not even do it. But because we were so sort of unknowing, I think it was just more just dive into it and don't think about it too much. But that's definitely, I think, for people who have to decide later in life when they have more personal responsibilities or financial burdens. I think it's a lot harder to be able to make that decision, especially for women. If there are, yeah, other sides of your life that sort of ask for other things. So yeah, I had the luck to be able to choose this quite naively at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and then there's the part where we start to get more serious,
Mm-hmm.
and we started to sort of finalize like or like decide
Set.
on our culture and our
Yeah.
way of working, and then the differences between me and my male co-founders sometimes shone through or gotten more apparent. And
Like.
that's something like we would have quite intense discussions, for instance. Like early stage, you just have to talk through everything and anything,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's decisions on the product side or on the business side or decisions on like, I don't know, statuten, like your
Yeah.
all the
Your
legal documents
articles.
and stuff.
Yeah, the legal stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those types of things, we would have endless discussions on this. And they would just sort of go into it with a how do you say this? Gestrekt been.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So
Yeah, they would
they
just go
would
in
just
very
go head
harsh
first.
into the discussion, and
Yeah.
and I totally like shut down because of that and wouldn't really make a point anymore. And so at some point, for instance, we really had to make this decision like, okay, once when we are going to have a meeting on deciding on something important, we lay out all the information in the middle, and then we go one by one in a round without any interruptions or without any responses. We each get to say our part.
How did
Institutionalizing those types of things really helped for me.
yeah. How did you manage to build that in? Because if like they go in head first, I can understand that you're like, ooh, maybe stay out of the discussion for now. But how did you get back into the discussion in a way that you were managed to make that change to like, okay, we need to change the system or
Mm.
the system
Yeah, the
of
playing
having that
field.
is yeah.
I think in that regard, I was very lucky with my co-founders because they were also always very keen on like personal development and sharing feedback. So we
Mm-hmm.
would have these monthly feedback sessions where we would, with the seven of us, all give feedback on each other and open up about things that we were struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
And this was also a very unintuitive thing for me in the beginning because I also thought like I had some trouble being vulnerable with them because I thought they are so strong and smart and like so good at all these things and they know what they're doing and I'm not. So I'm gonna pretend like I know what I'm doing as well. Um, but I really learned from them that it's good to be vulnerable and to open up on those things. So whenever I experience these hardships is a big word, but whenever I experienced these things, then we would open up about it, we would talk about it, and then we would together come up with solutions like this. And this took so much time and energy from all of us in the beginning. Every month we would do this for an entire day. Um, but I really think that this was a great investment in the team and in how we operate. And this is one of the big reasons why we made it work with seven people because I think especially investors in the early days they were like seven founders, we're never going to invest in it because it will never work, it's seven captains on a ship.
Mm-hmm.
But because we invested so much in each other and understand each other and trying to build systems to work with each other's strengths and weaknesses,
Yeah.
we were able to make it work.
Yeah, and also be open to each other's, let's say, feedback, because
Definitely.
that also takes a bit of vulnerability from the other side.
Definitely, I think everybody looking back, everybody had one point, like one of
Mm-hmm.
those feedback sessions where they totally broke down and sort of laid everything on the table about their childhood, about their experience growing up, and all the things that sort of made them into who they are today, and where certain like traumas came from, or where certain responses or personality traits came from. And being able to do that
Mm-hmm.
and really learn each other that deeply and um, knowing that your co-founders are okay with that and embracing that part of you, I think that was super powerful.
Yeah. Is that also part of dating in a sense?
Wow.
That you actually have give each other the space to open up about
I think it's
traumas about
definitely it's I don't know if it's needed on the first date necessarily,
no,
but
maybe not, but over time.
definitely I think that's what they often say, right? Choosing a co-founder is like choosing like your partner.
Yeah.
I think those relationships are quite similar. You spend so much time together, so many highs and lows. Really embracing that side of each other as well. I think that's definitely healthy for a romantic relationship as well.
Yeah. So when we talked before, you talked about the shift you had made in terms of culture from being a quote unquote family to being a quote unquote team. What triggered that? Was that
I
also
think
one of the outcomes of the feedback sessions?
mm, I wish it had been because I think it took us quite some years to eventually make this shift.
Mhm.
I because we're now talking about maybe this happened year and a half ago that we really did a lot of workshops and trainings around management styles and
Mhm.
what we can do better as managers. Um, and to sketch the context, like we were all in our early 20s when we started Breeze. We had never worked a regular job. So we didn't really know um, about company culture and about
Mhm.
management styles.
Mhm.
We just had a crazy drive ourselves to work really hard and make this work. And for a long
Yeah.
time, with the seven of us, um, it came from this inherent, or how do you say this?
Intrinsic.
Intrinsic motivation to do it this way. Then once you start growing the team, um, there we would have similar expectations of our team members, similar as to what we expected from each other.
Mhm.
And some people really lived up to that because they were also very eager and felt the mission and wanted to grow Breeze. And others felt that less because they just wanted to like have a job and live their life, you know. So we did really realize that we can't um, expect everyone to be on the same level of motivation or commitment as us.
Mhm.
Um, and if you're not specific or make these expectations apparent, then there's going to be quite some friction between the employees who do feel this and the employees who don't, and the founders who feel like it should be that
Yeah.
way. Um, so that
This
was a
is
big
what it's
learning
all.
curve for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. So what does it what's the key difference between being that family and being a team?
I think for a family, there's something unconditional about it,
Mhm.
and I think there is less. So a team is very result oriented. A team
Mhm.
wants to win something,
Yeah.
like a sports team. They want to win the World Cup, you know. Um, and for us, at some point, we realized that we also really want to win the World Cup of dating. So
Mhm.
you have the Tinders and the Hinges and the Bumbles of this world, and we see the damage that they are doing uh, to people's experiences,
Uh-huh.
to people's self worth, and to online culture. And we really do want to prove that you can become big with an honest business model as
Mhm.
well as with a product that is actually good for humans. So we sort of eventually dare to sort of speak out this goal that we had. And if that's really the goal, then you really need to arrange your team in a way that you have all the people in place to actually win this competition. And you can't do that with a family that's more about, I don't know, connection with each other and making everybody feel at home.
Mhm.
And it feels like we don't care about our teammates, which really is not the case because I still think there's a lot of room and eye for the individual.
Mhm.
But it's all with the goal in mind that we want to win. And I think that's a big shift.
Yeah. Yeah, it becomes a bit more, let's say, looking at utility.
Definitely.
Someone has a is good in a certain capacity, and or functions really well in a certain capacity and doesn't function in another capacity. So has it also changed your hiring process then?
Definitely. We have gotten way more strict in our hiring process
Mm-hmm.
to really make sure that we have the right people in the right places in the team. We've had people shift roles um, because there were gaps that needed to be filled. Um, and the downside of this is, of course, that we had to also sometimes say goodbye to people who didn't fit the team composition at the time anymore. And something that we really learned throughout this process is if you make these expectations really clear from the beginning and then you are able to have open conversations around this,
Mm-hmm.
which might sometimes be um, there's friction and it's not fun because you want from a human level you want to always keep everyone within the team and make sure that everyone sort of can stay forever because we're
Mm-hmm.
having such a good time. Um, but sometimes has meant that we had to make tougher calls on this, which I think um, are good for the company and eventually are also good for the people themselves because they want to be in a position where they can perform their best. And if that's not here right now, then um, I don't think it's useful to stay. You know,
No, true. Any tips on how to do this? How to scout if people are doing what they're good at, but also what they're supposed to do from a team perspective and from a company perspective?
yeah, we've had to install many of these systems again to keep an eye out, because you can say like, oh, just managers need to be cautious of this, and then leave it at that. But then it's never going to be sort of materialized into something. So now we have these systems in place that every quarter you have to sort of fill out a survey. You're going to have a talk with your confidential counselor every month, and you have a talk with your manager every quarter, where you really go deep into how are you feeling? How are you feeling about the work pressure? How are you feeling about the things that you're doing? Are you enjoying it? So really make space for these honest conversations. And
How
in
do
that
you
sense,
keep how do you keep that honest? Because at some point people have sort of an incentive because they want to stay on. They have a sort of incentive to maybe downplay work pressure or maybe think for themselves or rationalize certain things for themselves.
yeah, so we have a confidential counselor who has a sort of system in place where they ask certain things
Hmm.
that are good indicators of how someone is doing mentally, for instance. So every month we track like, how did you sleep this week? So these are things that are not going to be something that you want to lie about necessarily to sort of um, save your position in a way, but it's
Hmm.
just actually asking you like, how did you sleep? And if you sleep really bad for a couple of weeks at a time, then it's an indicator for something, and then it's
Yeah.
time for to have that conversation.
Ah,
Um,
so you sort of take indirect proxies that can enable you to say, hey, something is cooking that needs to
yeah,
be.
and I do think that we have had examples of colleagues that were unhappy at certain places, and then we were able to make changes so that they could thrive again. I
Mhm.
think those types of examples also show other team members, that we really can take, like, we want to take care of it, like we want to take care of you and make sure that you are happy.
Mhm.
um so I hope that those types of, that also showcases it. But I think also what we also do a lot is that every team has like, um, every quarter you eat at your manager's place. They cook, and then there's like a big sort of round of feedback, kind of like what we used to do with the founders, but then within
Mhm.
your smaller teams. And managers are also very much encouraged to be very open and vulnerable there as well. And I think that's also setting the stage in a way to show that that is okay. But yeah, it's definitely not perfect. So there's always room for improvement here. But we're trying to continuously learn on this, and iterate our process and systems that way.
Yeah. So I want to shift gears a bit to your shift from being the head of product to being the head of brand. Um, you told me before when we chatted before, you told me that you found out over time that you struggled to fit in with the other founders because of their not only because they were doing going in head first into discussions, but also because of their, let's say, analytical, pragmatic way of working. How did that sort of influence how you perform?
I think for a long time, I tried to assimilate in a way. So, for instance, Breeze is a very data driven company
Hmm.
because we have so many like analytical founders. And so, every time I wanted to make a call on the product side, I had to sort of back these decisions up with
Data.
data or proof. And that was something that was very unnatural to me, because um, and now it feels as if I want to say like, yeah, just trust my gut feeling, and make decision on that, and they should be okay with it too. And that's not necessarily what I want to say, but because I do think that sometimes user experience, it's not a science, it's a feeling, and it's an understanding of humans, and sort of having an intuition to make decisions based on that, which cannot always be sort of rooted in data. So sometimes I struggled wanting to make calls on the product side, and they wanted to have long discussions on certain sort of A/B tests that we did to try to validate it. And um, I think. over time, I struggled with that, but also struggled with the role that I grew into as the head of product, with product being at the time the biggest team within Breeze, and having the developers and the designers in there. And this manager role also didn't really fit me because it had a lot of, um, it required a lot of structure and process, like designing processes, while I wanted to design like a good dating experience, you know? So
Yeah.
I realized that I was really good at the 0 to 1 in the product
Mm-hmm.
team. So there's nothing, okay, build a product that people want to use.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it came to scaling from 1 to 100, in terms of processes within the product team, but also in terms of the actual product,
Mm-hmm.
um, it was something that wasn't something for me. And I spent too long stretching myself into this shape that didn't fit me. And that's when I also, as I told you before, I struggled with a burnout
Mm-hmm.
for quite some time. And that's also indeed why I stepped away from the product team when I came back and moved to a different team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's been a very uh, interesting process as well. And it was very tough at the time, of course. But after, like looking back, I'm really happy that it happened, because I can definitely say that I'm more happy at the place where I'm now. And it also taught me a lot about what I want in my career and what roles do or don't fit me.
Yeah. So, what was the first sign for you that you were going into a burnout?
Like looking back, there were many signs, because I had been quite unhappy and tired. For instance, I didn't sleep well for a long time with work. I think if I had to really narrow it down to something that people should look out for, I think it's um, Sunday evening. You just had a weekend where you could do whatever you wanted to do and see the people you wanted to see, and you're energized again. But are you looking forward to Monday morning? Um, and for a long time, I was never looking forward to Monday morning. While on paper, I had the dream job, working at a super cool product in a role that really fit my interest, with people that I really really enjoyed working with on a super cool product that was doing super well, and it's your own company. So why are you not enjoying it? Um, and it was because I was in this role that didn't fit me. But it took
Yeah.
me too long to realize this.
How long did it take you from the start to getting back?
So once I fell into the burnout, I think it took me like half a year of zero work, and then I slowly built my hours up again. So starting with like 2 days, 2 hours a week, and then building that up. And it took me, I think, about a full year to really work. So 1.5 years to really um, build up to working full time again. And then actually being a founder, your full time is not necessarily 40 hours. So another half a year to really like be at the same strength I was before, I think.
That took a long time.
Yes.
To what extent did, let's say, the shift from family to team also contribute to you feeling better now?
So that shift was part of the things we changed when I came back, because we of course had a lot of talks around like how did this happen, what can we improve to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And I think one of the insights we had is that if we don't make things um, explicit
Mm,
expectations, then individuals are very much left with their own bar of if they're doing good enough, or their own insecurities about
mhm.
if they're doing good enough. And for me, my personal bar is really high. So I always felt like I wasn't doing good enough. While now with these clearer expectations and also clearer reviews, whether you are reaching these expectations, I think it gave me a lot more clarity and also sanity, um, in terms of knowing that I was doing what was being expected of me and not always having your personal feeling as if you're not doing good enough.
Ah, okay. So one of the things that prompted you to get into burnout is also the your own,
Yeah,
let's say, how you viewed your own performance.
yeah, yeah. And because my personal bar was
Yeah,
maybe higher than the actual bar, I always felt like I wasn't doing good enough. And how this relates to the family versus team thing is that now that we perform like a sports team, we tell you what we expect from you and how you're doing in terms of these expectations.
yeah.
And I think it gives a lot of rest and clarity for people if they do reach these expectations, that they're doing well and they can sort of feel
I
feel
feel good
satisfied with
about.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's also clearer for people who can improve on some points, that it's very clear to them what they should improve on or what they could improve on to meet these expectations. So
yeah. So
clarity around this is very important.
yeah, clarity around roles and responsibilities, clarity about around okay, what level do we need you to perform on? That kind of clarity also, yeah, I can imagine it helps. It helps a lot in staying sane. Let me put it that way. At least,
Exactly.
making sure. Okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, because otherwise people are filling this in with their own um, bars in mind or their own expectations, and that's not a objective uh, level, of course.
No, but on the other hand, you do need people to sort of, especially in the early phase, you do need people to sort of fill in a lot of blanks for themselves.
What do you mean?
Well, there's one of the things I found out while working for startups is that it takes quite a bit of self initiative and entrepreneurship.
Mm.
Also, because as you said yourself, and I've seen that before with other founders, they don't have management experience necessarily. Some have, most don't, and then they sort of they just let you yeah, basically figure out what you need to do. So that it's sort of an intrinsic, how do you say, tension that sort of, yes, you need to be clear, but especially if you have people working in jobs rather than being a founder, because I think those capacities, those identities are different. But yeah, there's still a lot of sort of self self starter mentality needed in a sense.
I think you're right. I think definitely the first 10 team members, well, more or less, this intrinsic or this personality trait or this level of entrepreneurship is very valuable,
Uh-huh.
because these roles are still very much undefined and you need to
Yeah.
indeed take on a lot of different responsibilities
Hmm.
for roles that might not even have a name. So indeed, early early employees definitely need this. I do think we are now at a stage where it's around 30, 35 team members.
Hmm.
Um, and it's 7 years in the making. I do think we're at a phase now where it's clearer what roles we need and what types of people we need for those roles with
Hmm.
what types of experiences. And so I do think right now we can be more specific there. But indeed, early years, you need those people. And we were very lucky to have those people.
Okay. Let's shift towards the end. You're venture backed. I was wondering how having investors has helped you on the journey in terms of maybe advice that you had or maybe building culture.
Yeah, it has been of tremendous help, of course. I would say, especially our angel investors have been very involved. So we had a great group
Mm-hmm.
of also very consumer tech focused angels or ex-founders who helped us a lot in the beginning with setting up our marketing team, helping us with fundraising, culture as well. So it has always been very nice to have these people on speed dial. And now also more institutional money. I think those types of organizations also really help you look at the business from a more strategic point of view. Like, what do you want to prove as a company the coming years? So I think I hear a lot of founders sometimes complaining about their investors, but we've had luck maybe, but also it has been going quite well with Bree, so there wasn't any need for investors to be difficult.
Yeah, to be to jump in. So
Yeah.
did you sort of select those investors yourself, or did you were they coming to you because of the ecosystem that you're in? Because I know that, for instance, yes, Delft has quite a active community of angels around it.
So eventually, I think most of our angels came sort of. We had gotten quite some PR at some point. We participated in Dragon's Den, and through those PR activities, some angels came to us and they brought friends or people they knew in.
Uh-huh.
And yes, Delft has definitely also helped us. Yeah, not only with their network, but also so we were still studying when we founded Breeze, and we had made this. We said to each other, we're going to give it half a year or a year, and these are the goals that we want to reach, and then we are going to
Mm.
apply to Yes Delft, the accelerator program, and if we get in, then we can quit our studies and really go full time. Um, and once we got into the accelerator program at Yes Delft, it felt like okay, there's a organization that we really trust in and they believe in us. So it must be something real. We aren't just students with some big dreams, but we're actually onto something. So they really made us believe in the beginning. Yeah.
Cool. I have a question for you. So I'm developing an AI funding coach that connects female founders with investors. Um, from your perspective and your experience, especially, what is an essential part of that tool to make sure that I can truly empower female
I
founders?
would say, I'd say making sure that you foster this community where you also allow investors and founders to give feedback to each other or sort of rate each other, um, so that the quality of the people on your platform is your USP. I think that's one of the most important things. Similarly to what we have done with our daters
Huh?
to make sure that the community is intentional and that everybody behaves following certain rules.
Huh?
I think for investors and founders, that's also going to be very important because there are investors out there and there are founders out there who've had bad experiences with each other. Um, and making a platform that also is transparent about that and leaves room for that, I think that could be very powerful.
Yeah, that's. I think it's the second thing. The second time I hear something about grading each other. And grading is not the right word here because you're not, but there needs to be some sort of evaluation because if I think of it, what I usually do if I connect people, I always put a sentence below it, say, hey, let me know if this is a bad match because then I at least tend to learn from the mistake that I made. And maybe I should indeed have some sort of functionality around that, but also maybe the work with asking also, hey, how was your experience fundraising with each other?
I think that would be super impactful. And that's also how we sort of already do this without the platform being there. So if, for instance, I often get asked by other founders, like, hey, I see this VC invested in you. What's your experience with them? And then I vouch for them or I don't. In this case, we almost always vouch for the people that backed us. And so if you have a similar feature where you can vouch for each other, I think that could be very, because also if you are looking for instance, angels, and there's this angel who no one knows, no one vouched for, it's more difficult to accept. Well, you'd rather have an angel that fellow founders vouched for than someone who didn't.
Yeah. But then again, everyone starts at zero.
That's definitely also part of it. So there are, of course, similarly to daters, we have daters who have been vouched for and daters who are new to the platform. And then we tell them these are new people. So it's not necessarily bad that they haven't been vouched for. They're just new. And that's also fine.
Yeah. Okay, so I also need to make the distinction between new investors and new founders, so they can actually see from each other, like, oh, it's okay that they don't have a rating.
I'd recommend that feature. Yes.
Cool. Thank you very much, Marsha. Really, also for the conversation. Really enjoyed it. If people want to learn more about you and about Breeze Social, where would you like to send them?
I would say for Breeze, you can check out TikTok or Instagram at breeze.social. And you can follow me on LinkedIn. So it's Marsha Goei, MARSHAGOEI.
Okay. And we'll include those links in the show notes. Marsha Goei, thank you very much for an amazing conversation. Listeners, thank you very much for listening. And as always, until the next episode, keep being awesome. Well, that's it. Thank you for listening to episode 149 of Women Disrupting Tech, titled How a Female Founder Builds Real Human Connection Beyond the Swipe with Marsha Goei. Marsha and I hope that you found our conversation as beautiful and inspiring as we intended it to be. And if you have any questions for Marsha, please leave them in the comments section on Spotify, YouTube, and or Apple Podcasts. I do read all the comments and I'll make sure you get an answer. If you want to connect with Marsha and learn more about Breeze, including links to download the app, you can do so via the links in the show notes. As usual, you can find the show notes at womendisruptingtech.blog and on my Substack via the links in the caption. If you found this episode helpful, please take a moment to rate and review the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. And if you don't follow us yet, please hit follow or subscribe so you never miss a future episode. Once again, thank you for listening. I hope to see you in the next episode. And until then, as always, keep being awesome.